All right, let's dive right into this explainer on Colorado Senate Bill 26189. It's a bit of a mouthful, but honestly, this is the groundbreaking new law that's officially bringing order to the Wild West of AI decision-making. We're finally moving away from that era of black box algorithms operating in the shadows, and we're stepping into a highly regulated framework built entirely on transparency and accountability. So, with all these new regulations looming over how businesses actually use artificial intelligence, the most urgent question for executives and developers right now is simply this: is your AI legal? Colorado is setting a massive precedent here. If you build AI tools, or if you use them to make decisions about everyday people, well, this law is absolutely going to fundamentally change your operational playbook. To get you prepped, we've translated this dense legislation into a highly structured compliance playbook. We're going to define the scope, compare developers versus deployers, look at consumer rights and recourse, and finally, go over deadlines and enforcement. Section 1. Defining the scope. Consequential decisions. Now, the legislation doesn't actually care about every single piece of artificial intelligence out there. The law hones in exclusively on what it calls consequential decisions. These are those really high-stakes moments where an automated decision-making technology, or ADMT, materially influences an outcome. We're talking about the major pillars of life, right? Like an algorithm deciding if you get approved for a mortgage, whether you land a job interview, if your insurance claim is covered, or if you get approved for a residential apartment. If an AI output is a non-trivial factor in these life-altering choices, it is heavily regulated under this bill. And I think this brilliantly illustrates the law's pragmatic boundaries. While your automated loan approval system, or say an AI resume screener, is heavily regulated, the legislation explicitly carves out exceptions for the mundane stuff. Your everyday office tools like spam filters, calculators, basic spell checkers, anti-malware software, and basic spreadsheets that just require manual human analysis, those are completely exempt. It's totally targeted at the actual stakes, not just the mere presence of technology. Section 2. The Great Divide. Developers versus deployers. To ensure accountability at every single step of the AI lifecycle, the law splits operational duties into two really distinct buckets. Think of the developer as the car manufacturer, right? They build the vehicle, they modify it, and they write the safety manual. The deployer, on the other hand, is the fleet manager. They're the business actually driving the car and dealing directly with the passengers, who are your consumers. So, the absolutely crucial point for developers is that they must supply their deployers with a rigorous owner's manual. Under the law, developers are legally required to document and share the intended uses of the AI, along with any known harmful or inappropriate uses. They have to detail what categories of data actually train the model, its known limitations, and provide crystal clear instructions for safe human monitoring. Plus, if there's a material update, say a patch that fundamentally changes how the model performs, the developer must actively notify the deployer. Now, deployers, acting as the operators, carry the heavy burden of transparency with the public. They have to provide a clear and conspicuous notice to consumers right at the point of interaction, literally before the AI even evaluates them. And if the computer spits out a negative result, what they call an adverse outcome, the deployer has 30 days to provide a plain language explanation of the decision, the role the AI played, and instructions on exactly how the consumer can exercise their legal recourse rights. And before we leave these roles behind, remember the magic number 3. To ensure a strict audit trail, the legislation requires both developers and deployers to retain records of their compliance for an absolute minimum of 3 years after a consequential decision is actually made. That means keeping change logs, system version identifiers, and documentation of mitigation changes long after the fact. Section 3. Consumer Rights and Recourse. We've all heard the horror stories, haven't we? Imagine a consumer is denied housing or a critical loan purely based on an opaque algorithm's output. Well, under this new framework, they are no longer left helpless in the dark, wondering what invisible data point just ruined their chances. This frustration is solved through a very specific legal pathway called the adverse outcome journey. When the computer says no, step 1 is notifying the consumer of the AI's exact role in the decision. Step 2, they're legally allowed to request the personal data that was used and actually correct any factually incorrect or bad data that the AI might have ingested. Finally, step 3, they're granted the right to appeal the machine's conclusion and demand a meaningful human review. And, importantly, this meaningful human review cannot just be a simple rubber stamp. The law specifically defines it. It requires a trained individual who looks at the primary evidence and doesn't just blindly default to the system's output. Most importantly, This human reviewer has to have the actual, tangible authority to override the AI's consequential decision. No passing the buck here. Section 4. Deadlines and enforcement. Let's look at the compliance countdown. With today's date being May 13, 2026, organizations have just over 6 months to finalize their documentation and disclosure processes. The preparation period is right now, because on January 1, 2027, Senate Bill 2618 officially takes effect, and all these obligations become binding law. By January 2028, the Attorney General will already be presenting their very first annual report on enforcement actions and violations. When it comes to policing these rules, there's a very specific mechanism. The law explicitly states that it doesn't create a new private right of action, meaning consumers can't just independently file private lawsuits under this specific statute. Instead, the Colorado Attorney General wields exclusive enforcement power to police these new rules under the Colorado Consumer Protection Act. If an organization gets investigated, violations are classified as deceptive trade practices. However, the Attorney General might offer a 60-day right-to-cure window, basically giving a company a chance to fix the issue before formal action, assuming the violation wasn't a knowing or repeated offense, of course. When it comes to liability, fault is going to be carefully and strictly allocated based on the roles we discussed earlier. Like, did the developer build a flawed tool and hide its limits? Or did the deployer misuse a perfectly safe system against the developer's instructions? And take note, companies absolutely cannot simply use contracts to blindly waive or indemnify away their liability if they violate anti-discrimination laws. The law completely voids those protections. The takeaway here is absolutely massive. As the era of unchecked, black box automated decisions comes to a close in Colorado, and let's be real, likely sets a template for the rest of the country, the most critical question you've got to ask your team today is, are we ready for true AI accountability? If you build or deploy these tools, the clock is totally ticking to get your documentation, your disclosures, and your human review processes perfectly in line. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I highly, highly encourage you to review your own systems against this new compliance playbook.